Welcome back to my channel, JDJ Planet, and to my podcast, God is an Artist. My pretty pink microphone is dead, and I'm sad about it, but it's okay because I get to get out my second mic that I've mentioned before. Hint, hint, whenever I'm ready to bring on guests, I'm already ready for you. Well, at least I think I am. I think I might have to get a couple of more pieces of equipment. I don't know. I don't know how this stuff works for real, for real. My flowers are doing well. A couple of them died, unfortunately. My roses died. One of these little white, I don't know what those are called actually. One of those died also. But overall, they've been lasting. When was Valentine's Day? Like 2 weeks ago? 2 weeks ago. I've been feeding them the little flower food that they come with to keep them alive. I think this is the longest I've ever kept any flowers alive. So there's that. We are still making mending hearts at the creative spot. However, by the time you see this video, that might not be the themed the craft of the month anymore. You're still welcome to come and make one. We have plenty of materials. Shout out to the couple who donated all the art supplies when they saw the article from St. Louis Public Radio, and also shout out to you all because every bit counts. Every bit of news shared, every bit of word spread, every bit of money given counts. You can still give to the campaign. We're not stopping until we raise all this money. We want to continue giving art programming to the youth. And it's fun because I am getting ready to do an after school program with Ferguson Middle School. And thanks to that lovely couple, all the supplies will be free. You know, just being able to do things for free goes a long way. Imagine what we could do when we have monetary support. So give to the Giving Art campaign. Just support us. Share stuff that you see me post about the art programming. I firmly believe that there is someone out there who could benefit from what we have to offer. So thanks for your help, and thank you so much for your support. So today is the last day, the last video of this 3-video trilogy series. How did God design marriage? God designed marriage to be fun, fruitful, and fulfilling. That was part 1. Part 2 was God designed marriage to be lifelong and fulfilling. And today we're going to talk about how God designed marriage to represent how Jesus sacrificed for the church and how Jesus loves the church and how we submit to Jesus. In other words, God designed marriage to be Christ-like. So I had a really good time putting this one together. I took a bunch of scripture that I feel like gives evidence that God designed marriage to be Christ-like, to represent our relationship with Christ. So I'm going to go into Genesis 24. And we're going to get started. In chapter 24, Abraham sends his servant to find a wife for his son Isaac. And he tells the servant, don't go to the Canaanites, go to my land where I'm from to find a wife. And so you can read this whole thing if you want to, especially if you love romance stories. I think this is a great book. And especially if you love Jesus, definitely read this book. I think this chapter points to or shows us what the beginning of a Christ-like marriage looks like. I think the beginning of a Christ-like marriage starts with prayer. It starts with proper positioning, and it starts with correct posture. Chapter 24, verse 12 through 14. It says, then he prayed, Lord of my master Abraham, make me successful today and show kindness to my master Abraham. See that I am standing beside this spring and the daughters of the townspeople are coming out to draw water. May it be that when I say to a young woman, please let down your jar so that I may have a drink, she says, drink, and I'll water your camels too. Let her be the one you have chosen for your servant Isaac. By this I will know that you have shown kindness to my master. Okay, the servant prayed. The servant prayed, and he prayed a very specific prayer right here. I feel like anyone who's in the pursuit of marriage, anyone who's in the pursuit of love everlasting in this way should start with prayer. Number 2, positioning. Verses 15 and 16. Before he had finished praying, Rebecca came out with her jar over her shoulder. Rebecca came out with her jar on her shoulder. She was the daughter of Bethuel, son of Milcah, who was the wife of Abraham's brother Nahor. The woman was very beautiful, a virgin. No man had ever slept with her. She went down to the spring, filled her jar, and came up again. So, Rebecca, when we think about the beginning of a Christ-like marriage, as she is getting ready to be pursued to be someone's wife, she was in her proper place at her proper time. It sounds like to me that she was doing chores, like just maybe her regular daily like chores, whatever she was responsible for, whatever was her duty or her task for the day or her day to day, that's what she was doing. And I remember when so a lot of things led to me meeting my husband. A lot of prayer. It was a lot of leaning not on my own understanding and trusting in God, and a lot of like surrender had to go into the position I ended up being in when I met my husband. That was the beginning of us. This is the beginning of them, beginning of a Christ-like marriage. And then finally, I think the beginning of a Christ-like marriage requires correct and proper posture. So, in verses 57 through 60, it says, "Then they said, 'Let's call the young woman and ask her about it.' So they called Rebecca and asked her, 'Will you go with this man?' 'I will go,' she said. So they sent their sister Rebecca on her way, along with her nurse and Abraham's servant and his men. And they blessed Rebekah and said to her, 'Our sister, may you increase to thousands upon thousands. May your offspring possess the cities of their enemies.'" Wow. This passage doesn't talk about how Rebecca was feeling. It doesn't talk about what she knew or what she didn't know. As a matter of fact, in this moment, she hadn't even seen Isaac yet. She don't know what this man looked like, and she says, "I will go." She getting ready to marry somebody. She don't know if that man ugly or not. I think when she gets to see him, it doesn't say whether or not he's ugly or not. But I mean, what a posture of submission to the Lord, right? Because the servant came on command of the Lord to get a wife for Isaac. A friend of mine posted on Facebook that you can't submit to a man if you're not fully submitted to God. First, Rebecca, she was already, I assume she was already a godly woman. Considering Abraham wanted the servant to go to his land to find her. She says, "I will go," right? They already talked about how the command was from the Lord. So to know that the command to leave came from the Lord, she said, "I will go," because she was already submitted to God. And so now she's in a position to be submitted to a man, to be a submitted wife to a husband. So that is what I think chapter 24 in Genesis is pointing to, the beginning of a Christ-like marriage. And once you surrender and submit, I think blessings follow. Like they said, when it says they blessed her, blessed is our sister. May you increase upon thousands. May your offspring possess the cities of your enemies. You know what I'm saying? As a result of her submission, she gets that blessing. That's what it sounds like anyway. So anyway, moving on. I also got into Proverbs again. Been in Proverbs this entire series. And I want to read Proverbs 31, the epilogue at the end, the wife of a noble character. And I think this passage describes a wife that is in a Christ-like marriage. So this is who she is. "A wife of noble character who can find? She is worth far more than rubies. Her husband has full confidence in her and lacks nothing of value. She brings him good, not harm, all the days of her life. She selects wool and flax and works with eager hands. She is like the merchant ships bringing her food from afar. She gets up while it's still night, provides food for her family and portions for her female servants. And she considers a field and buys it. Out of her earnings, she plants a vineyard. She sets about her work vigorously. Her arms are strong for her tasks. She sees that her trading is profitable, and her lamp does not go out at night. In her hand she holds the distaff and grasps the spindle with her fingers. She opens her arms to the poor and extends her hands to the needy. When it snows, she has no fear for her household, for all of them are clothed in scarlet. She makes coverings for her bed. She is clothed with fine linen and purple. Her husband is respected at the city gates, where he takes his seat among the elders in the land. She makes linen garments and sells them, and supplies the serpents with sashes. She is clothed with strength and dignity. She can laugh at the days to come. She speaks with wisdom, and faithful instruction are on her tongue. She watches over the affairs of her household and does not eat the bread of idleness. Her children arise and call her blessed. Her husband also, and he praises her. Many women do noble things, but you surpass them all. Charm is deceptive and beauty is fleeting, but a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. Honor her for all her hands have done, and let her works bring her praise at the city gate. I think that passage is describing the character of a woman, of a wife who is in a Christ-like marriage. I think that is what a Christ-like wife looks like. She gets up in the wee hours of the night and prepares food. She sacrifices her sleep. She has a heart to serve. And you might read this passage and you might hear someone that sounds overworked, but remember, this is someone who's being loved, right? This is someone who's in a marriage that is fun, fruitful, and fulfilling, lifelong and steadfast and Christ-like. So she does all of these things proudly, and she does all of these things with a glad heart. And honestly, being a mom and being a wife, like, okay, it's interesting. My family, if you ever were to talk to them, they can tell you, getting me to do chores as a young person in their house was like pulling teeth. But nowadays, and I'm still working on it. I dream of a chore system that keeps the house clean and tidy all the time, and makes it easy to just keep it clean. I have littles around here, so we'll see how well that goes. But I value the work of chores, and I value a clean home, and I value a cozy, comfortable, safe living environment for my family, for my husband, and for my kids. Like, I strive to be this woman. I strive to be this woman because God deserves that out of me. My man deserves that out of me. My kids deserve that out of me. And I deserve that out of me. This is dope. I love being a mom, wife. Mom, wife. It's so much fun. So yes, that's what I think is a woman who exists in a Christ-like marriage. And I think this passage describes a Christ-like wife. Going forward, we are now in the New Testament, back in First Corinthians. And we're back in chapter 7. So this, I think, shows the power of a Christ-like marriage. So Paul, this is him once again writing to the people of Corinth, the Corinthians. He says here in chapter 7, verse 14, "For the unbelieving husband has been sanctified through his wife, and the unbelieving wife has been sanctified through her believing husband. Otherwise your children would be unclean, but as it is, they are holy." Paul is saying here that, if you are married to an unbeliever, you don't have to be alarmed and you don't have to be afraid, because the unbeliever has been sanctified by their believing spouse, by their believing husband or wife. And this verse doesn't say the believer's salvation covers that person's salvation. That's not what that's saying. It can be confusing, I think. I actually watched a video about this to get some clarity, and the lady, she asked the speaker, how can a person's salvation cover another's? And he was like, no, we're not talking about salvation. We're talking about holiness. We're talking about sanctification, and we're talking about being set apart. It kind of made me think like, a unbelieving spouse with a believing spouse, they would still get prayed over. They would still pray for their food together. They might go to church together for special occasions. The kingdom is still a part of that person's life, even if that person doesn't claim the kingdom for themselves. And who knows, throughout the marriage, as the believing husband continues to pray, the believing wife continues to fast, the unbelieving person might give their life to God. So, a Christ-like marriage has the power to bring an unbelieving spouse into a believership. I don't know if that's a word. I might have just made that up. Moving forward here in the New Testament. And I'm going to put this disclaimer out there every single time. I am not a biblical scholar. I didn't go to school for any of this. I just love the Lord. And I'm also a nerd. I love to read. I love to study. I love to highlight. I like to write. So it's like if I say anything that is, I don't know, wrong, just let me know. Going forward, we are in Ephesians chapter 5, verses 21 through 33. Yes, this is Paul writing to the people, I think it's called Ephesus. And these are instructions for Christian households. So the other one, and when he was writing to the people of Corinth, that section was called Instructions for Christian Households. And this one is also called Instructions for Christian Households. So you'll see the theme throughout Paul's letters that there's a section called Instructions for Christian Households, and Paul gives you the instructions. So, without further ado, submit to one another out of reverence for Christ. Wives, submit yourself to your own husbands as you do to the Lord. For the husband is the head of the wife, as Christ is the head of the church, his body, of which he is the Savior. Now, as the church submits to Christ, so also wives should submit to their husbands in everything. Husbands, love your wives, just as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her to make her holy, cleansing her by the washing with water through the word, and to present her to himself as a radiant church, without stain or wrinkle or any other blemish, but holy and blameless. In the same way, husbands ought to love their wives as their own bodies. He who loves his wife loves himself. After all, no one has ever hated their own body, but feed it and take care of it, just as Christ does the church. For we are members of his body. For this reason, a man will leave his father and mother and be united to his wife, and the two will become one flesh. There's that Genesis passage. This is a profound mystery, but I am talking about Christ and the church. However, each one of you must love his wife as he loves himself, and the wife must respect her husband. This passage, this idea of submission, I think it can get a little misogynistic, right? It can get misogynistic easy. Because when we hear submission, it's almost like we think of like a dog to a human, right? Good dog, here's a treat. Here's a treat for doing what you're supposed to do every single time, right? Good wife, here's a treat. Here's a treat for being extra obedient. You know what I'm saying? So I was thinking about it, and I feel like instead of submission in this case being like a dog to an owner, it's more like a flower to the sun, right? If flowers want to grow, right? And I keep these by the window in my house, so they can get the sunlight. And so flowers can't grow without the sun, right? A flower has to yield to the sun. A flower needs the sun, right? Without the sun, the flower dies. Of course, there's other elements that go into keeping a flower alive: water, soil, love. But essentially, you need the sun. And I think that's what it's like, submitting to your husband is supposed to grow you, and it's supposed to make you shine, and it's supposed to make you beautiful because you need him, right? The sun is loving on the flowers. The sun is loving on nature right now, helping it grow, helping it flourish. And the plants have no choice but to receive that. And I think they receive it gladly. I think they receive it willingly. Submission is supposed to be beautiful, and submission is supposed to be... Submission is not like, oh, the man has every single say so ever, and the woman, as soon as she gets married, every bit of her direction is his responsibility. I think this passage points to what the order of a Christ-like marriage is. We surrender to Christ because he loved us first, right? Love comes before the submission, and then it turns into this really cool design that we'll actually look at in the next passage. Last but not least, we are in 1 Peter 3:1-7. And this, I feel like, is God's formula for a Christ-like marriage. And I'm going to put a link to a video in the caption, because she breaks this down. 1 Peter 3:1-7, it says, "Wives, in the same way, submit yourselves to your own husbands, so that if any of them do not believe the word, they may be won over without words by the behavior of their wives when they see the purity and reverence of your lives. Your beauty should not come from outward adornment such as elaborate hairstyles and the wearing of jewelry or fine clothes. Rather, it should be that of your inner self, the unfading beauty of a gentle, quiet spirit, which is great worth in God's sight. For this is the way the holy women of the past who put their hope in God used to adorn themselves. They submitted themselves to their own husbands, like Sarah, who obeyed Abraham and called him her Lord. You are her daughters if you do what is right and do not give way to fear. Husbands, in the same way, be considerate as you live with your wives, and treat them with respect as the weaker partner and heirs with you of the gracious gift of life, so that nothing will hinder your prayers." And other translations call us the weaker vessel. So I'm gonna put the video in the caption, in the description, so you can listen to how she broke this down. She had a message for wives who were feeling spiritually stronger, or I guess spiritually more disciplined than their husbands. And she was basically like, God isn't telling you to lead him. He is telling you to live in such a way that your spirituality and your lifestyle would influence him to be more spiritual. And so this is what I think the formula is. And I'm gonna put my little graphic on here so it'll make more sense. But like, when we think of a timeline of a marriage, right? When we say I do, like I do, you may now kiss the bride, husband and wife. Mwah. At that very moment, the wife just might already have a spiritual regimen that is more disciplined than what the man has. She just might. She might already have been saved ever since she was a kid and is well into steak eating territory. And he might have only been saved for like, I don't know, some years and is still in milk drinking territory, right? That just might be the dynamic when at the very point of I do, right? And so the Bible in that passage described us as the weaker partner or the weaker vessel. And I think what's supposed to happen is at the point of I do and at the beginning of your marriage, the wife, her demeanor and her existence has to be influential, right? At the point of I do, the man might not be all the way qualified to like actually lead. You know what I'm saying? And so what does that mean then? It means the wife has to have patience as he is spiritually growing and as he's spiritually maturing. So that way in the marriage, as the marriage grows up and as the marriage grows old, then he becomes qualified to lead, right? Remember, God doesn't call the qualified, he qualifies the called. So what if a man has to like practice leading her for 5 years before he can actually lead her for 45 years, for 50 years? What if he has to learn how to lead her for 10 years before he can actually lead her for 60? The way I like to think about it is, when you make Jell-O and you have to pour it in the pan, it's still liquid. It has to set for a second, right? I think marriages, and some marriages could be this way, where at the point of I do, you're not even one yet. You're still two individuals. You have to merge. You have to gel together. It's a process. It's like a journey together. God's formula for a Christ-like marriage doesn't allow for anyone to boast, and it doesn't allow for anyone to have pride, right? put it like this, to put it in short terms, what I consider the formula here. Woman is more spiritually disciplined, and maybe she's more spiritually mature than the man. When they get together, she is imparting her spirituality into him as she continues to love God and as she continues to serve God and walk her walk, right? And then as she is pouring her spirituality into him, he's getting stronger. He's healing. He's healing from the past, from whatever hurt him before her. He's learning how to love himself again. He's growing. He's healing. He's learning. And then he's like, wow, spiritually now. And remember, that passage I was just in said, let me open it back up so I know exactly what I'm talking about. It says, husbands, treat them with respect as the weaker partner so that nothing will hinder your prayers. You hear a lot about how these unfortunate circumstances where a man will get with a woman. He's like the worst version of himself, right? She's loving on him. She's pouring into him. She's building him up. And then what? He drops her and he leaves for somebody else as the new version of him, right? This verse and other translations will make more sense probably, but it says, treat them with respect as the weaker partner, so nothing will hinder your prayers. It almost sounds like if you disrespect your wife, God will not hear from you. God will not hear from you. My man don't have to worry about that. Marriage is so beautiful. The idea of being in love with someone and getting their undivided, unrequited love and you returning it. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. And you know, when we do it God's way, when we live and love our partners according to God's design, then we can see those lifelong marriages. We can see those 40-year-old, 50-year-old, 60-year-old marriages, right? Because now we get to walk this thing together. We get to navigate this thing together. We get to traverse this thing together as two imperfect people who both love a very, very perfect God. So I hope you guys enjoyed this series, mini trilogy series. Next month, I'm going to be getting into how did God design church? Specifically, the Sunday morning brick and mortar experience that we all have grown to know and love. So tune in for that. Comment your thoughts. What did you think of this series? You didn't hear any of the alarms, smoke detector beeps in the video. And that is because I took them down. I didn't replace the batteries because I don't have any. But you didn't hear them. Oh, my husband's home. Well, until next time and until the next video, take care.